What's up? I'm Sam, and today we're going to talk about inversion of control containers in Typescript and why you don't need them. Alright, so let's get things started right here with our little example here. So right now we have this little course enrollment service, and it enrolls students. So we're going to take a course ID and a student ID, and we are going to store them in our Mongo database, just arbitrarily picked Mongo. Now it doesn't have any inversion of control or anything yet, but we're going to get there. So let's start off like, what is dependency inversion? So that is ultimately what inversion of control containers do, is they wire up the dependency inversion for you. So dependency inversion is one of the solid principles. So it says high level modules should not depend on low-level modules. Both should depend on abstractions. Abstractions should not depend on details. Details should depend upon abstractions. Okay, that's a mouthful, but what it says here basically is I'm storing this in a database, but I really don't care which database I'm using. So it could be Mongo, it could be Postgres, it could be Dynamo, it could be Cassandra, Cockroach, whatever. Like, it could be the file system. It doesn't really matter. So for these types of things, you want to put them behind an abstraction. There are plenty of patterns out there. In this example, we're going to be using the repository pattern. So let's do that first. And the second part of that dependency inversion principle is, instead of calling this directly, I want to pass it in. So I can pass it in through the constructor, I can pass it into a function. Either way, I want to have that switch available so that if I have another implementation of this and I have a Postgres database, say I'm having another environment or something, I can swap that Postgres implementation in, and all the rest of my code is going to work exactly the same. So I'm plugging that in. Alright, so I have this little interface here, the repository interface. So if I want to extract this out and put this behind this abstraction, I can say like Mongo course and implements course and make this a class. Let's go. Okay. And then I can say async save. This is going to take the course enrollment, and here's where I can do this. Okay, there's gonna be a lot of red, but that's okay. We're just working through kind of playground. Okay, so instead of doing this, now I can say private repo this read only. And then in the constructor, get this repo new Mongo right, and then I can say this repo save. Okay. So this is pretty cool so far. We kind of put this behind an interface, and now we have it as a private member of our service class. There's kind of one more step here, and that is we're actually going to pass this in here. and then get rid of this new here. So now, whenever we make a new one of these, we also have to pass it one of these. So we have separated this in our unit test. We can put in a fake instead of the actual Mongo. Let's say we have two environments. At one environment we're using Postgres, one environment we're using Mongo. The rest of the logic is exactly the same, so we're good there. So this is how you would do that. But then, so what Inversion of Control Containers do is they actually inject these new instances for you. So the way they work is basically at the entry point of the application, there will be some big map. So they're called like bindings usually. And that is where you will define your interfaces to concretions. So at the entry point of the application, you'll say, anytime that I need one of these, I want you to give me the concrete version here, okay? And if you're familiar with like Nest or this is most popular like Java Spring, you'll see like this auto wired everywhere. So what it does is it's gonna auto wire this engine and this transmission. So these are defined up here in this config, and you can see that there are new instances here, and then here it is going to automatically inject those instances. Same thing in Nest. This cat service is injectable. The cat's controller uses that service, and down here it is defining that mapping. So in this controller, if I ask for cat service, I want this new cat service, and it's going to do all the instantiation for me. Okay, so that's all great and all. So usually this will have like some type of annotation. So wherever this gets instantiated, instead of actually having to do this, you'll have like an annotation. And this annotation will handle all of the instantiation for you based on that mapping. Okay, so that's kind of complicated. And it works. I don't like it because I don't know what my concretions are without looking at this giant map at the beginning of my application. And I always have to like switch back and forth. It feels kind of magical. And it's really like a lot of cognitive overhead to think through. It's like, am I actually talking to Mongo or am I talking to Postgres right now? I don't really know. So why don't you need this? We don't need this because Typescript has default parameters. So instead of doing all this inject business and setting up the mappings and the bindings and all that kind of deal, you can just do a default parameter here, and you can say new Mongo personal repo, and you're done. This is your inversion of control container. So which thing am I actually using? I'm using the Mongo one right now, but in my test I can still override this, and that's really powerful because it kind of reduces the cognitive overload of having these things spread out all across. And like to even take this a step further, you don't even need like classes either. So the way I would probably do this is like get rid of all this, and then you could say like const enroll student equals, and same function, you know. But instead, you don't have a constructor anymore, but you do have more function arguments. So you can say this is going to take a repo. I am going to automatically make it this new mongoose one. And bam, same thing. So this is kind of like my preferred method to do it. You just pass as another function parameter, and you basically get to avoid all of the bloat that comes with inversion of control containers, all the annotations. It's just not necessary. You can do a parameter to your function or constructor and pass in a default, and you're good to go. And even if, say, you did have different environments, you can pass in a function here, like a factory function that says like get course enrollment repo, and if I'm in this environment, give me the Mongo one. If I'm in this environment, give me the Postgres one, and it works exactly the same. So it's right there in line. You still get the benefits of the pattern, the testability things that come with it, and the decoupling that comes with it, without all the bloat. So let me know what you think. Yeah, talk to you next time. Peace.